Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Waleisah Wilson-Menefee. I am the founder of NewLife-Second Chance Outreach Incorporated, and we greatly appreciate you for joining us today for our virtual Know Your Voter Rights in partnership with Fair Count and VoteRiders. We appreciate the time that you're able to join us. We know you may have other things to have done, but we appreciate you joining us. Um, just to give you a small introduction, myself started NewLife-Second Chance when I got out of prison, 2011, in Columbus, Georgia, as a way to connect other formerly incarcerated people with resources that they need to not just survive, but to thrive. So that means connecting them to employers who hire individuals with criminal records, landlord who'll be willing to rent to them, and also connect them to entrepreneurship and other job readiness workshops. We've been doing this. We started in Columbus, but we are now a statewide organization, and we serve the entire state. We are composed of a board of directors who's about 85-90% of other formerly incarcerated folks, and the other ones are just awesome allies who may have not been impacted in any way, but they love the work that we do. And all of us are volunteers to do this work. So we really appreciate you and thank you so much for your support. As a way for us to do our part and our commitment to for civic engagement, this is one of our events to educate Georgians on their rights as voters. Oftentimes, people do not know that they can vote. Oftentimes, folks are told the wrong information. So, we want to make sure that we give you the correct and accurate information. I'm just going to share my screen just to show you a few of our events that we do have coming up. So whether you are in person this month or in Columbus, Georgia, we had this meeting today where we're actually asking city council candidates, oftentimes city council folks, whether you're city council, mayor, they never address social justice issues. So we wanted to put them on the spot and ask them in what their take on things such as closing jails, ending cash bail reform. What is your role in budgeting for alternative sentencing? Getting record restrictions, school to prison pipeline, arresting, police accountability and excessive use. So we wanted to make sure that we engaged those candidates. So we did this today, and this is what we're doing right now. Excuse me, where we were talking to you about your rights as a voter, voting with a felony, checking your voter status, and registering online. How to get key election. We're going to give you some key election dates. You're going to learn about voting as an elder, a person with a disability, or as a domestic violence survivor. Get updates on redistricting issues. Learn about how to vote while in jail, or how to cast an absentee ballot. We're going to talk about the new USPS postmark rule and learn what to do when you encounter problems at the poll. Learn how you can get a free ID birth certificate and learn how you may be able to get your probation terminated early through Georgia's new probation law. Also going on at the same time that we're hosting on a different link, we host monthly meetings for family members of people who are currently or formerly incarcerated. And we host that on the second Wednesday at 7 o'clock on Zoom to connect with other individuals and loved ones with people who are currently incarcerated, to just have peer and emotional support, navigation and advocacy, and to get resources, find out about visitations, and things of what you can take to visitation and what you can't, and just having a space is not limited to folks in Georgia, although most of the resources when we're talking directly about Georgia prisons, it will be related to Georgia, but it is for open to anybody who wants to join and get that information. And those of you who are in Columbus, there's a mayoral candidate, mayoral forum tomorrow in Columbus, Georgia on the 12th at 800 8th Street. The event opens at 6:30 p.m. It starts at 6:30 p.m., but the doors open at 6 p.m. and that is hosted by a group of individuals, several organizations partnering to bring those governor candidates to Georgia. One of the candidates is no longer running for governor. She decided to run for Senate, so that's why she is not there. There's going to be a couple of other mayoral debates in Columbus, Georgia. If you're in the Fayetteville area, please join us on Saturday, March 28th. Also, the link that Andrea dropped in, you can go to that website and register for it. It will be Saturday, March 28th. We will be doing a lot of what we're doing now in this call, but we will also have a screening as well in partnership with Merrill Chapel United Methodist Church and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, the Sigma Omega Zeta chapter. You must register for that event and let us know if you're going to be coming and how many folks will be coming with you. And again, that's Saturday, March 28th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Fayetteville, and you must RSVP by March 20th. And again, in Columbus, again, March 31st at 5:30 p.m., we'll be talking to some mayoral candidates as well. And with those mayoral candidates, will be some of the issues, and we will be talking about, again, we'll be dealing with the new jail that they're building. That's almost $500 million. And just a lot of the issues that's impacting the city as well. And then April 1st, even though this is April 2nd, April 1st, we will be having a candidate makeup forum on Zoom. We have not put the flyer up yet, but it will be up by the end of this week. And then on April 2nd, we're going to be talking social justice and criminal justice with school board candidates. A lot of people often forget that school board candidates are very critical when we're dealing with social justice, when we're talking about school to prison pipeline, talking about constantly pushing children out of education into the youth section for some behaviors that may not even be behavior issues, but they could be because they have some intellectual disabilities or they're autistic, just any type of thing. So we're going to be talking to school board candidates about that. So if you can join us for that, as well as if you're in Columbus, the WTVM news station will be also broadcasting the mayor race as well. So those are just a few of our upcoming events. And then we also have other events that's coming up. If you're LGBTQ in Columbus, those are going to be some virtual events that Colgate Pride will be talking to those individuals about. So if you go to our page, and if you see anything, whether it's in Columbus or outside of Columbus, and you feel like you would like for us to share it, we have no problem sharing it anywhere in the state of Georgia, so we can put that stuff on our website. And also, if you're formerly incarcerated, we have partnered with First Step Alliance to bring financial wellness workshops to you. Then you have free certifications, you have one-on-one financial coaching, and you can go into this. It's absolutely free. Just go to our page, and when you sign up, you're going to click the link to register and create you a free account. And you're going to make sure that in the drop-down menu, you would choose New Life Second Chance Outreach as the partner that you heard from it. And you can just go in there and move around and take short courses, get your certificates, and also request one-on-one financial coaching. So it's really a good free opportunity to be able to have if that's something that you are interested in. Now, we are going to move right along and go ahead and introduce you to our first presenter of the night, which is Adam of Faircount. And he's going to be with us about 15 minutes to talk to us and give us some updates and the information that he has planned for us.
All right. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen. So I'm going to give just a brief review of Faircount. I'm going to share some voting updates, kind of what voting will look like for this year, specifically, and then specifically a little bit about some of the offices that will be up for election this year, and then some ways to get involved with us. So who are we? We're Faircount. We're relatively new. We were founded in 2019, and we're a nonpartisan nonprofit that really looks to build power in communities that have been historically marginalized, especially what we kind of envision as the three pillars of democracy: the census, voting, and redistricting. And how do we work? We really look to build relationships in places that don't get a lot of organizing attention. So we actually do not organize in Metro Atlanta. Most of our work is focused in rural locations, but also other urban centers: Columbus, Macon, Savannah, what have you. We focus on these three pillars of democracy: the census, voting, and redistricting. We actually don't have a specific part of our mission around justice impacted individuals. But through our incredible partnership with New Life Second Chance Outreach and other groups, we're really looking to connect into the justice impacted community and be a really strong partner and ally in the work within the justice impacted community. And this picture is from our Ballots and Bites banquet that we do in Columbus. This is from last year. Our fourth one, hard to believe, our fourth one will be this coming July, and super excited about that. It's a gathering of Fair Count, New Life Second Chance Outreach, justice impacted individuals, supporters to come together and learn about justice impacted issues and voting updates. Just want to review a little bit about last year. So in many ways, last year was kind of framed a little bit as an off year, so to speak. It could be called that when it comes to voting. There were no big, national elections or even kind of big state elections per se. However, there was still a lot of important civic engagement happening and a lot of elections still in kind of an off year. And specifically in Georgia and Mississippi, where Fair Count focuses its work, Georgia turned out very strongly for an off-year elections around PSC, the Special Elections for Public Service Commissioner, and elected 2 new commissioners last year. And then in Mississippi, municipal elections were held across the state, and 6 of the 8 most competitive races saw a turnout increase from 2021. So there was a lot of a really strong civic engagement, even in, so to speak, an off voting year. This year will definitely be anything but an off voting year. It is a big year for voting. The midterms are happening, and want to just kind of give a high level review of dates around voting this year. And this is through the framework of Georgia, where Fair Count does a lot of our work, but we also do work across the Southeast, and especially this year we're focusing on Mississippi. So a little Mississippi is mixed into this as well. But yesterday actually was a big day in Mississippi. It was the primary, and actually there was a primary here, there was a special election actually here in Georgia as well. The Georgia primary is coming up on May 19th, and then election day for the entire country is on November 3rd. In Georgia, we're going to be, voting for Senate, House, Governor, Public Service Commissioner again, and then also many of the places, for instance, here in Columbus, had municipal elections. We'll be voting for mayor here in Muskogee County on May 19th, as well as other local races. Specifically diving a little bit deeper into the primary election dates. So this is just the calendar for the primary that's coming up. The last day to register for the primary is April 20th. The first day of early voting in Georgia, this is for the Georgia primary, is April 27th. We really, at Fair Count, lean into encouraging early voting as much as possible. Every day is election day during early vote. The last day of early voting in Georgia is on May 15th. And then the Georgia primary is May 19th. If there is a runoff, that will happen if there are runoffs needed, that'll happen on June 16th. We actually are coming off an election here in Georgia yesterday where there will be a runoff for that special election in Northwest Georgia. I don't think a date has been set for that runoff yet, but it'll probably be in April. And then I always just like to lift up important resources when it comes to voting. Here in Georgia, kind of the main go-to place is the Georgia My Voter page. You can see the website there. At that website, you'll be able to do really anything you need to do with regards to voting, to including register. There's a link that you can go to register to vote, but also you can look up your early vote locations, polling location for election day, your voter registration status. You can find sample ballots. And then also below that, we always want to lift this up too, is the voter kind of supporter / suppression hotline. If you come across any type of legal question around voting, or there's something you feel like you want to report, 866-OUR-VOTE, and then 866-687-8683 is the actual number, our vote. You can call that number and kind of get really kind of more detailed legal guidance there. Want to spend a little time, a few minutes, talking about the Public Service Commission. So this was a really important election last year in Georgia. It is back on the ballot. It'll be back on the ballot again this year. And very few government agencies have as much impact on people's daily lives as the Public Service Commission. They determine rates and regulations for pricing for electricity, natural gas, and telecommunications. And I feel like Georgia last year really leaned into understanding and learning more about the Public Service Commission. Not going to dive deep here. I encourage you to kind of research it on your own. But last November was the first time we had voted for Public Service Commission since 2020. We should have had elections in 2022 and then again in 2024, but kind of it was very much caught up in the courts and it was drawn out. And so we were finally able to vote for PSC last November. And interestingly enough, we will have 2 seats again on the ballot for Public Service Commissioner this year. Districts 3 and 5, you can kind of see those there. So last year it was 2 and 3. The person who won 3 will be up for election again, and then we'll also have an election for this in the 5th district. So ironically enough, we were finally able to vote in Public Service Commission last year, and it's going to be back on the ballot again this year, 2 seats. Most importantly, I think, to keep in mind with the PSC is this determines how much you pay for your utility bills. And that's something that we really want to lift up and make clear and really kind of elevate the importance of the PSC. If played that. Want to spend a little time too. At Fair Count, we do a lot of voter engagement. NewLife-Second Chance Outreach has been a part of this with us. We thank them so much. A lot of other organizations as well. Fair Count really has kind of set itself up to be able to do this well. And, just want to lift up the importance of voter contact and voter engagement. It often might not feel that way when you're trying to reach out to voters. You encounter a lot of folks who just don't want to talk about it or aren't interested. But hundreds of studies have shown the positive impact voter contact has on turnout. It's often modest. It's not like we're going to go out and try to talk to 100 voters and then we're going to 100 people to vote. But those modest efforts, they add up, especially in close races. So, for instance, you can kind of see the percentage of the voter increase across different outreach methods. So, actually yesterday I did a phone bank. We did a phone banking into Mississippi for the municipal for the primary. And so on average, phone banking like that increases turnout by 2.8%. So we really want to kind of lift up the value and importance of reaching out and talking to voters. And this is some of what we have planned for this year. If you have your phone, I encourage you to scan that QR code. That will take you to our Mobilize page where you can sign up for some of what we have coming up, including some phone banks. We also are trying to really lean back into census education. The 2030 census is 4 years away, but planning is happening now. And we really want to begin to engage the public around the importance of the census. We actually have an event on March 28th that will kind of review the importance of the census and the foundation of the census, as well as give updates to what's happening with the census. A lot is happening that we want to inform communities about. And then, a lot of GOTV outreach this year, additional civic education opportunities, getting creative with partners. We've done a lot of creative stuff for NewLife-Second Chance Outreach, other partners as well, continuing all of that. And one special program that we are launching is this Rural Leaders Network. This will be an opportunity to bring together rural civic leaders to really enhance their skills in organizing. If you know of anyone who might be a great candidate for this, it's really open to anyone. They would need to ideally be kind of, their work would ideally need to kind of spread across the state and not just be in Metro Atlanta. Feel free to scan that code and get someone to sign up. And that is Fair Count. Thank you all. Super thankful to be here and I'm so appreciative of NewLife-Second Chance Outreach.
So I think it would probably be better also to probably take Q&A for your portion right now. If anybody had any questions that you would like to ask Adam. None?
I covered all of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we do know that they do, the PSE particularly is very important because a lot of people they completely forget about the fact about these really, really high utility rates. And we are all griping about how the light bills are going up. And these are the folks who are making sure they handle that. And I can tell you just off a side note how powerful it is, how serious it is that folks want to control the power. An entirely different state, Alabama, has seen what has happened over here and then got so upset of what democracy does is when people decide to say we want something different. Alabama has taken upon themselves to say, well, we're not going to have that in Alabama, and that they are now going to move forward with not allowing the PSC elections to be elections at all, but appointed by the governor. So we just want to make sure you let you know that this is something serious. I don't know if Monica's here yet. I don't see her here on the call. Can you text her? And what I'll do is I'll do my part until she get in, Adam. So if you can text her, I'll go ahead and move on and maybe she'll come in. Yes, Andrea, do you want to talk about that?
About the data centers?
Yes, because a lot of data centers, from my understanding from my research today, I found out that there are over 100 data centers in the state of Georgia. And people
Yes,
think that, oh, they bring jobs. But also, let's talk about the negative of how they would drain your light bills.
right.
And
These are completely different data centers than any other kind that we've had before. You will hear proponents of the data centers say, "Well, we have lots of data centers around Columbus, all throughout Georgia. There's one in downtown Atlanta." And things like that. These are completely different kinds of data centers. They're hyperscaler data centers. They take way more, like 5 times the power and a lot more water, fresh water. They can only use fresh water. There are uh, ideas that there's going to be closed loop system for cooling, but the problem is the information, at least in the data center in the, I think it's LaGrange area, and the data center that Muskogee County uh, board of what are the Chamber of Commerce type of people want to bring in are there's very little transparency about the information. They tell us there's going to be 195 good paying jobs. No one knows what those jobs will be. They say that they will make $95,000 a year. That has not happened in any other city that has allowed data centers in. And so a lot of the problem is that there's not a lot of information, and so we have people who are not super fond of the idea of a data center coming to Muskogee County, have been going on information that we know from other places around the country where there's just been a constant bait and switch, and people are losing economic ground when a data center arrives, and they're losing their land. And it's that the noise from data centers is just it's also not what was agreed upon before. So right now there's a huge push by people in the community to get more information from our mayors, get mayoral candidates, get more information from our city councilors and our city council candidates, and yeah, press them for more. We know from I know from being so engaged in the Public Service Commission race that Georgia Power has been bilking its residents, bilking Georgia residents for a very long time. They've gone back on every promise that they made to get rid of fossil fuel emissions. They have also been building way more infrastructure than they need based on our population, and they have been doing that for years. And now that we are realizing that Georgia is a target for lots of data centers, we are now seeing that that was always the plan, that the Public Service Commission was allowing Georgia Power to build out a lot of the infrastructure, charge residents for it, to bring in the data centers that will then outsource their use of natural resources and outsource their use of power to residents. So the PSC is way more important than I ever thought that it was. And so I highly, highly recommend getting involved in that. And also, just making sure you know in what city council district you live in and whether that counselor is up for an election. It's the odd number ones, the odd number districts this year. So 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And come and ask to throw in a question with at the forum for a city councilor or for a mayoral event, or even for the governor event that is happening tomorrow, because governors also have a large say in what businesses and what types of businesses come to the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Andrea. Appreciate that. And I think Monica's here. Okay. Thank you. Hey, Monica. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. You came right on time. And so right now we have Monica Spencer with VoteRiders, who's going to give you some information about the work that VoteRiders does and how they can help you.
Hey, thank you, Waleisah, and just thank you for the work that you do and how you impact not only Columbus, but across the state. So we appreciate your footprint as you are marching and trudging around the countryside doing your work, and just grateful to be here. I apologize for my tardiness. I was at a fatherhood program and so rushed over here to share with you information about VoteRiders. VoteRiders is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that, long and short, we provide voter ID education and assistance. We are a pro-democracy organization that helps people have the tools that they need so that they can vote. Georgia is a strict voter ID state, and that means that there's just a list of a limited number of IDs that a person can present when they go to vote. And if people don't have that, don't have a government issued ID, passport, military ID, that's where we come in. We step in and we help people get that ID. Now, all of our services are free of charge. The voter or the individual that we assist pays nothing. We cover the cost for state IDs, for driver's license, for birth certificates that are needed in order to get an ID here in Georgia, as well as a marriage or divorce decree certificate. And if a person is getting an ID in Georgia for the first time, and they're moving in from another state or have had an out-of-state ID, we will also pay for a motor vehicle record if that individual does not have the ID, the out-of-state ID to surrender. So again, the long and short of it, we provide voter ID education and voter ID assistance. We also share information about voter ID laws, the laws that impact us, the laws that at times will disenfranchise us and discourage us from voting. And so we help voters navigate that space so that they can, in fact, cast ballots that matter and count. We will assist anyone who is eligible to vote in the state of Georgia, well, really around the country. We're a national organization. The only prerequisite is that an individual has to be a U.S. citizen, but we will help anybody. We encourage people to vote. We can't make anybody vote, or we can't tell anyone who to vote for or which party to support. But we are pro-voter, and we encourage people to get involved in the electoral process so that we can make a difference about what's going on in our communities. And so, again, we empower the voter to be able to go to the ballot and cast a ballot with confidence. Even though our focus is on voting, individuals need an ID to get health care, to get housing, to get onboarded to a job. And so it's just not a matter of voting, even though voting is a large part of it, but it's about being a citizen, a productive citizen in our communities. Um, in the state of Georgia, in order to register to vote, if you do it online, you must have a Georgia state ID number. If you request an absentee ballot, you also must have a Georgia ID number. There are ways to get around that, but there's so many hoops to jump through, so many other things that need to be done. And so we figured, we're going to help people in the quickest, most efficient way possible, and that's to get the Georgia ID. We are local. Well, I'm local here in Columbus, but we do cover the state. So we do have boots on the grounds in other parts of the state. So if you know of anybody who needs assistance or needs help, please have them reach out to VoteRiders. I'm going to drop my number and our helpline number in the chat box. So please reach out to us if you yourself need ID assistance, or if you know someone who needs ID assistance. Again, we cover the charges for all of the documents, as well as providing transportation to DDS, Department of Driver Services, to Department of Public Health, to vital records, if that be the case. And so we do provide transportation as well. In addition, we also have other services. We have digital services that we can share with you for if you're working with an organization, so that people can learn more about who we are and they can pass it along in the workspace. We have flyers, posters, info cards that you can share, as well as we have events like letter writing parties and text banks that you could be a part of. So again, I'll drop my information in the chat, and feel free to reach out to us if we can be of assistance. Thank you. Oh, are there any questions?
And Monica, this includes free ID, free birth certificate, free what?
Motor vehicle record, divorce decree, marriage certificate. Now, I will state there is a free Georgia ID that you can get at DDS or the Board of Elections, but that ID is only to be used for voting. There's a free voter ID that the state provides, but you still have to get your birth certificate and other underlying documents. And so VoteRiders feels that if you're going to do all that, may as well get an ID that you can use for more than just voting. So yes, we pay for, again, birth certificates, regardless of where a person was born. As long as they are a U.S. citizen, they could be born either here in the States or abroad somewhere. We will get that birth certificate. And in the instances, no one on this call, I don't think it applies to, but we have parents and grandparents who were born at home, and there really is no birth certificate for them, but we're able to assist an individual to pull documentation together so that we can have a proof of birth certificate.
Thank you. I have a question. This Paris, thank you. And actually, I just want to make sure these are for individual. We don't have to be in the organization, correct?
Ms. Harris. Ms. Williams, would you mute, please? Okay. All right. Go ahead. Say that again.
Thank you. I just want to make sure these are for individual, because I'm sure I will probably need to update it. What was that? A passport? Like, did you say for a passport, individuals? Also, I do need like a passport, and I need a new ID. ID. They don't have to be for organization, just for our own personal.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I definitely need another one because I cannot find my ID anyway. So I've been looking for one, and I know my passport is about to expire.
And no, we don't help with passports.
Okay, that's fine. I did want to make sure I did understand that too. I want to make sure that was clear. But I definitely do need an ID.
Okay, now
my driver's license. I think my driver's license is okay, but I do have a question about the license. How far are the driver license do y'all go out? Like, for how many years out do y'all go?
I think it's an 8-year license or ID. I don't work with driver services. I work with VoteRiders. Driver services is one of our partners, so they would have to
Okay.
answer that. But I believe it's an 8-year ID.
Okay, but
And
that's good because I probably would just thought of 1 year. I wouldn't even thought to ask that. But thank you for that. Okay.
and if you don't get the information, if you go online to VoteRiders,
Yes, ma'am.
VoteRiders, you can get help that way. Now,
Okay.
I will share that we'll help with a new ID, with a lost ID, a
Yeah.
renewal, or replacement. So we will assist with any kind of state ID.
I'm glad I asked because at first I thought it was all for organization. So I'm actually glad I asked. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much. And I'm glad you actually brought that up, Paris. I don't know if Monica can talk about it or Adam, but I could swear I read something in the news lately or something about now, or maybe it's a bill that's being passed that for folks to be able to register to vote, they have to have a passport, or what is that? Am I confusing it with something, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because passports are expensive. They're like $160. And so I'm trying to figure out, I want to make sure I'm wording it right. Is that something that's happened here in Georgia? And make sure, get me right now, get me right.
Yes and no. Actually, it's the SAVE Act. And Waleisha, I'm going to send you a one pager on the SAVE Act.
Okay, because I'll make
I
sure
don't
I
know how to.
include it with this video and the slides.
Okay, I don't know how to multitask, but I'll send that to you. So the SAVE Act is an act that has passed the House of Representatives for the country. It's in the Senate chambers, and it proposes that everybody prove that they are a U.S. citizen before they can register to vote or vote. Now, there are different versions of the bill, but I believe as it stands now, an individual would either have to present a passport or a birth certificate to register. That means everyone who's a registered voter currently would have to re-register with that
What?
piece of documentation.
Which makes no sense because if you already registered to vote, you
Correct.
these folks getting on
And,
my
and so
nerves.
that's why it's a crazy bill. It's a bill that's specifically designed to
Keep
disenfranchise
folks from
voters.
voting.
It's voter suppression at its finest. And it greatly impacts women because women have gotten married, they've gotten divorced, and they have names, legal names, that do not match their birth certificate. So that means they've got to go and then get birth certificates. So, we're encouraging you to reach out to your senator and ask them to vote no on that bill. I believe both Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff are going to vote, have indicated they will vote no. But it doesn't hurt to call other states, other senators and say, hey, I'm, a resident of your sister, state, and, please vote no on this bill because it is voter, disenfranchisement, is voter suppression, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the thing about it, in Georgia, we have the real ID, which means you already provide a birth certificate in order to get a real ID. That means every Georgia voter would again have to re-register with either a birth certificate or the passport. And so that is the SAVE Act. There is a bill here. And I think the bill was shot down on Friday. I'm not positive yet, but here in Georgia, House Bill 568, I think, that basically was trying to do the same thing. But I think that bill was shot down. But I'll confirm that for you, Alicia, and get that information to you.
Thank you so very
Thank
much. And then
you.
also, just
It
as we're
wouldn't hurt
talking,
to it wouldn't hurt to call Ossoff and Dr. Warnock, Reverend Warnock, and to say, I heard you were going to vote no. Thank you for
Yeah.
voting no, because it's an anti-save bill.
yes.
But I just hearing from constituents, and especially something that you're riled up enough to call about, that's always good. They know we're here. They know we're watching.
Yes, and I'll make sure the next time I'm at church, I'll make sure I tell him thank you personally.
Yeah.
So I wanted to also, when you mentioned about it being challenging for women who have name changes, it's also very challenging for old people. And when I say
Oh,
old people, I'm talking about people who were born by, what do you call those folks? Um, what do you call?
Midwives.
Midwives. A lot of
Yeah.
elder people, when they started this whole real ID thing, a lot of people, like grandmothers, your great grandmothers, they don't have their birth certificates. They might have gotten married at 12 or 13 years old, 14. They were, born by midwives and may not even have a birth certificate. And so it's really gonna impact a lot of people, particularly women and our elders. And so it's just it's a horrible bill. But we're gonna go ahead and move right on along to my portion.
Well,
And
can I
uh-huh.
can I say just a couple
Uh-huh.
of I forgot to mention that individuals with felony convictions, once they have completed a sentence or are off probation parole, they can register and they can vote. So please don't believe the lie that, once a person has a felony conviction that they cannot vote. Once they're off papers, then yes, in fact, they can go back and register and vote.
Thank you. And you already know I'm gonna touch on that. All
Yes,
right, Miss Irma has a question.
I have a question. Do you help with if somebody has their license suspended and they have a fine, do you help with the fines for them to get their license back?
no, no, we don't help with fines or tickets or anything like that, with the exception of child support, the child support fee to have an ID reinstated, a driver's
Okay,
license reinstated. But we don't cover any fines other than the child support.
fine, thank you.
Okay, give me 1 minute, y'all. I'm trying to multitask. Um, there we go. I'm trying to multitask. Okay, let's see here. Um, Let me pass this on to Andrea, and I am going to get Andrea to put this in here for me. One
Oh,
quick minute.
and I got one
Who
more
had a
question.
question? Go ahead, please
Harry.
do.
Did we have to do that voter thing tonight? Before, do we have to do that tonight to do the voter thing,
What voter
or
thing?
is that a cutoff like the registration for the card for her?
What
I'm
call?
sorry, the young lady we're speaking with now.
Um, do,
Monica?
yeah, do we have to?
Yeah, for the vote riders, we got to do that tonight.
No, no, no. We do
Okay.
what tonight?
I mean, is it a deadline to do the?
No, there is a deadline to register to vote, but no, we can help you anytime.
Okay.
We
Okay.
can
Yeah.
assist you. You don't have to do it tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I want to do that as soon as possible. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
why are we talking about it? Because I know several of y'all are in different parts of the state. Um, I'm trying to actually add the names to the giveaway wheel. So can you tell just the key election dates? Governor, and I know what counties y'all are in. I know we have DeKalb County. Where are you at, Paris?
Walton County.
And what elections are y'all dealing with right now?
I'm in Monroe, Georgia, Walton
No, I'm saying, what do
County.
y'all got going on? City council, board of commissions, what?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
Board of
that's okay.
Commission again.
Okay,
I'm not
let me see
quite
here.
close.
Okay, that's okay. We got a lot of COLLETTE. We got a lot of going on throughout the state. So we want to make sure, like up where I'm at, we had one for the congressional who was running for Marjorie Taylor Greene. We had a lot of them, so we want to make sure that folks. But you can also look on my voter Georgia page as well. You may not don't register because registration is gone, but if you're not able to register to vote, are you still able to access at my Georgia page to get your ballot, to see your polling locations and stuff like that, right?
I don't think so. I think you
You
have to
have to be
put
a
in your
registered voter.
correct, correct. Now,
Oh,
and unfortunately, the Secretary of State's page is not user friendly. So there's a way to go in to the county board of elections and look at what's being held in that county, but there's no easy way really to
Yeah,
access.
that
the elections in
Yeah, because our Walton County page is so confusing already to me half the time, but I can just look at our Walton County
You know,
board.
the League of Women Voters, Vote 411, has a good site that you can go in, put your information in, and find out who's on the ballot.
Okay.
Okay.
Vote,
Okay.
Vote 411.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get through my part. Let me share my
Okay,
screen.
sorry,
And
y'all.
oh, that's okay. If you can mute
Okay.
yourself though. So
Well,
we're gonna go ahead and go. You got it? Can you mute? Okay, I can't see if she's muted or not, but hopefully you are. So we're gonna go through this part, and we're gonna really talk about more in depth of the whole part of being voted to register, voting with a felony. We'll talk briefly about voting with a disability as an older person, as well as the different ways to vote, and we'll talk about a little briefly on early probation of termination. Again, I'm not a lawyer. This is information that I just know. So if you got this is for educational purposes only, make sure you seek legal counsel. Although you may receive some info on early termination of probation, misdemeanor probation, or federal probation, this information is for educational purposes only. Again, we just wanted to let you know about the United States Postal Service update. They changed its postmark rule last December, and we're going to talk to you briefly about why this matters and what you need to know. So normally when you drop something in the blue mailbox, it is considered that day of postmark on that day. So for instance, if you were trying to submit your tax return, or you got a legal letter from your divorce attorney that says you better have it in the mail by May 13th, you go and you drop it off in the post office slot box or in the blue box, it's actually postmarked by the 13th. So technically you're not late. Well, that has changed. The new way is your mail is no longer postmarked the day that you drop it off. It's actually postmarked the day that it's received and processed, which could be 3 to 4 days later, which could create a lot of problems. So they're saying that it dropped it off to try to make the process a little bit more smoother. But this is going to affect those that's dropped in blue boxes in the standard mail slots. They now reflect the date that it's processed at the regional sorting facility and not the date that it was deposited. This means that items may be postmarked 1 to 2 days. And when I talked to the lady at the post office myself, she said right now at this point it could be 3 to 6 days than the actual mailing date, which could cause late penalties for tax, legal, and billing documents. So what's affected? Voter ballots, tax payments, charitable contribution, your legal filing, your rent payments, and other bills or items that rely on postmark dates for deadlines can be impacted by late postmarks and risk late fees, penalties, and delinquency. So if timing matters to you and you want to ensure that your mail is properly dated, for one, you want to mail it early. Send your important time-sensitive documents several days before the deadline. You want to also go inside the post office, go to the counter and ask for a manual same-day hand-stamped postmark and tell them you want today's date on it. Or you can use certified mail to get proof of when the item was accepted by the United States Post Office. This is something that's happening nationwide. So if you're sending something from Georgia to California or Alaska, or wherever, or if the weather is bad, you also want to consider that as well, because during those times, the further the mail has to go, the longer it takes. And also when weathers get bad, traveling for mailboxes and mail trucks also gets bad. So you want to make sure you consider that. So what's recommended for voters? You want to mail early. Send your information early. Request your ballot early. If it says ballots, you can start requesting your absentee ballot on day one. Request it and fill it out that same day. It does not take long to do it. And return it quickly. If not in person at the elections office, then you need to hand deliver it to the post office and request a hand stamped postmark. And then also track your ballot via your county elections office website. Last year, over 430,000 people were purged from Georgia's voter rolls. And purge means if you have gone, if I'm not mistaken, you've gone 3 election cycles and have not, or 3 federal election cycles, and you have not voted. You haven't voted for a senator, you haven't voted for anybody in Congress, or is that correct? Or is that president? But I think it's 3 federal elections. If you've gone 3 cycles and have not voted, they figure you don't want to vote anyway, and they removed your name. So they removed over 430 people from Georgia. And it could be something simple as you not changing your address. When you move from point A to point B, you should be going on that website to update your address to make sure you got it. So basically, it is use it or lose it in Georgia. And then last January, a new law took effect that required unhoused voters, these are people who live outside or in shelters, to receive elections mail at their county's main elections office. And which is sad because some people would usually, if you worked at a shelter or lived in a shelter or outside, you were able to go somewhere, get your mail, and you could use that social service agency's address as your own address. But that bill that passed last year requires those folks to go to their county's main elections office. And in some rural counties, that's actually 20 minutes away and not even on a bus line. So for a population that's already dealing with poverty, has limited access to transportation, may not have identification, and who are mostly already Black, requiring them to only receive election mail at their county's main election office presents an additional unfair burden on them and put them at risk of being removed from the voter rolls. So we're talking about voting in Georgia. In order to vote in Georgia, you must be a U.S. citizen, legal resident of the county that you're trying to vote in, at least 17 and a half years old at the time of registration, but you got to be 18 in order to vote. You cannot be serving a sentence for a conviction of felony involving moral turpitude, and has a star by it because technically they don't even know what that means. Let anybody else tell it. Anything that's done against God or any time a law is considered a moral turpitude. So there's really not, they just define it as an action inherently wrong. Basically, if you did something wrong, contrary to the duties people owe to one another or society. And if you have not been found mentally incompetent by a judge. How you can get registered and check your status, you can go to the county registrar's office. You can go to your Georgia My Voter page where you can register, you can check your status. You can find update address. You can check polling places where you're actually supposed to go to poll for early voting, as well as where you can go on election day, because it can be different. You can see who's on the ballot. You can see a sample ballot and more. And regarding moral turpitude, it's just the term is, that's the problem with it, is that the term is just too broad. And what one considers dishonest or acts that shocks the conscience of others, some other people do not. So the solution technically is to just remove the word moral turpitude language entirely, restore voting rights for all, and never take the right to vote away. Other places to get registered, and these are considered mandated voter registration sites. You can go to the Georgia DMV and Motor Vehicle Safety, the DMV. You can go to the Department of Human Services or the food stamp office, rehab places, WIC office, and you can get registered. Public libraries, county courthouses and city halls, election and voter registration office, and also some recruitment offices and colleges and high schools for students and personnel. You can vote there. But again, simple and easy, you can just go to the My Voter page, and then there's also a how-to guide on registering to vote if you need that. And I will send these slides out, and all you have to do is click on the blue, and you should be able to hyperlink it, and you just tap that. And just a few more resources to learn about voting, and we're not going to go over these, but if you need to learn more about ID requirements, the many ways you can cast your vote, voting with a disability, or individual with who's a trans survivor of domestic violence, if you're living in a shelter or living in a non-traditional residence, these are just some links that you can visit to make sure that you are, staying civically engaged. What is voter disenfranchisement? Over 200,000 people in Georgia cannot vote because they are currently on paper, meaning they are currently on probation or parole, serving a sentence for a felony conviction. However, another 450,000 who have a felony record are not on paper and have completed their sentence, and they are eligible to vote but don't know it. So the goal is to empower these potential voters who can vote right now so their civic voice can be heard. And a lot of folks don't know. You just ask a person, hey, are you registered to vote? They'll say, no, I got a felony. But that is not where you should stop talking. The issue is not about whether you've had a felony. The issue is, are you currently on probation? Oh, no, I'm not on probation, but I owe restitution. That's okay. You can still vote in the state of Georgia with a felony, long as you are not currently on probation. Even if you owe fines, fees, or restitution, you can still vote. You can also vote while you're in jail. A lot of people tell folks, oh, you can't vote while you're in jail. Yes, you can. You can vote while you're in jail as long as you're not there serving a felony sentence. So if you're there, you've never had a felony, but you're there for a misdemeanor, you can vote. It'd be absentee ballot, but you can vote. If you are there, you on felony probation, but you committed a new misdemeanor. Even though you're there for a misdemeanor, you're technically there because you violated felony probation, so you would not be able to vote. So that is the key of what people need to know. Yes, you can vote in Georgia with a felony as long as you are not currently on probation or parole, even if you owe fines or fees or restitution. You can vote in jail long as you have a misdemeanor or serving and not serving a felony sentence. You can even vote in Georgia if you were sentenced under what they call the first offender law. You can vote because technically you have not been convicted, or if your unconditional discharge has not been revoked, you can vote. And if you want to learn more information about that, please visit Georgia Justice Project's website at gjp.org/voting. And again, those are the things we talked about. Sentence must be complete. You can't be on paper. And first offender status or unconditional discharge can't be revoked. You can't currently be serving a sentence for a felony. And even if you owe money, fine, fees, or restitution, they do not disqualify you from voting. So we talked a little bit about the First Offender Act and conditional discharge. Those are not convictions, so you can vote while serving those sentences. Now, we do want to let you know that it's a warning. It is an additional felony for you to vote in the state of Georgia, knowing you're not supposed to vote. So if you are currently on felony and you go and register to vote, that could be up to 10 more years in prison and up to a $100,000 fine. Having a felony isn't what disqualifies you from voting in Georgia. It's voting or registering to vote while you are still incarcerated for serving a sentence for a felony or on paper for a felony. Not misdemeanor probation, but if you're on probation for a felony or if you're in parole. And this is what it looks like.
And
if
yes,
you're going,
the laws are written to be confusing like that.
yes.
So it's not you, it's all of us trying to figure it out too.
Yes. And it's actually intentional because if you've gone to the DMV, I didn't put the entire application on here, but at the top of the DMV, they give you this application. They tell you to fill it out. They have make sure you sign and complete the pre-highlighted areas and sit down and somebody's going to call your number. Well, at the bottom of the form in very, very tiny letters, it says warning. Any person who registers to vote knowing that such person does not possess the qualifications required by law, who registers under any name or any other person's name or unknowingly give false information registered shall be guilty of a felony. For one, I have a problem with that because for one, it's small and it's at the bottom of the application. For two, it says any person who registered to vote knowing that such person does not possess the qualifications to vote. If you don't know that you're not supposed to, how do you know what the qualifications are? And then secondly, it makes a point to point out, says you, by reading this, you're thinking off the rip that it means trying to register in somebody's own legal name. They should just say plain as day, if you're currently on probation or parole, serving a felony sentence, blah, blah, blah. This is what it should say. And they do it intentionally. And then when folks go in and sign and you say, I've gone in with clients before and I'm like, why did you have him sign that? He can't do that. He's on parole. They be like, oh, I didn't even know that. So the folks at the DMV and a lot of folks at the libraries don't even know the law. And they're having people sign this. So in the event, if you ever do that and you realize that you were not, as soon as you can remember and you can figure it out that you did register when you weren't supposed to, call the local county elections office, tell them you registered to vote when you were actually ineligible to register to vote, and you would like to see if you can do a registration withdrawal form, and that so that you can cancel your voter registration. And then also in the bottom of the DMV form, there should be a little bitty box that says opt out. So when you go to the library to get a library card, I actually had to apply for a library card a couple of weeks ago. And at the bottom, I was like, why are you asking this question on a library card? But at the bottom of the form, it asks you, do you want to register to vote? Just say opt out. And if you're not sure, always opt out. And then later on, if you feel like you are, then you can register on your own online. And there's some more questions about voting with a felony. You can always visit our website to get information about voting as well as GJP's. Real quickly, we're
Or
going to talk
call
about
866-hour to vote.
Yes, drop that in the chat as well, because all the chat stuff I'm gonna make sure I send to y'all by Friday. So that way you'll have this and the slides. So if you're voting with a disability or as an elder, there are laws that protect you as a voter with a physical, visual, or hearing challenge. And also, any voter who is over the age of 75 years old or is disabled and requires assistance in voting, you may vote immediately at the next available voting compartment, booth, or without having to wait in line. I myself walk with a cane, and I've gone, and I don't know if they figure because they feel like I'm not old, but I have gone in so many different places, and the line is super long. And I'll say, well, where's the designated line for folks who are disabled? And they'll say, oh, disabled people don't get to jump in line. That's a lie. They're supposed to have a separate line or the ability for you, if they don't have a separate line, they're supposed to have the ability for you to be able to jump the line before the next person. If you're over 75 or if you are disabled. So just so you know that. Several federal laws protect the voting rights of older Americans and people with disabilities that require accessible polling places. The law requires that your county provide polling places that are accessible to people with disabilities, from paper ballots to absentee ballots to skipping in line to even having adaptive voting machines. If you have a disability, there are many accommodations to assure you that you're able to vote. And I gave you a few links that you're able to just click on to get some additional resources to read on. Also, you can get a free ride to the polls. So if you're in Georgia, you have Road to the Polls, and then you can go online and schedule rides. And then there's a phone number for you to call so that you can leave a voice message and have folks pick you up and take you to vote. Just a few key reminders. Georgia does not have curbside voting. Several states do have curbside voting. And I think Georgia should have curbside voting for folks who are elders or disabled. If you need instructions or want a demonstration of your district voting system beforehand, before you go in and vote on election day, you can contact the supervisor of elections and tell them you want to be able to come in and see the machine. If for some reason you have hard of hearing, hard of reading, being able to see, they should be able to actually have large print for you to be able to see, or visual touch, stuff for you to be able to do to accommodate any disability that you have. I see you, Andrea. You can arrange in advance any accessible transportation assistance you might need, and you can report any voting issues by calling the numbers on the screen. Also, if you're voting as a survivor of domestic violence, just because you are in a domestic violence shelter, there's a program that will respect your ability to keep your name safe, because right now you have where people can go online and see people's names and see how they voted. But if you're a part of the Georgia Vote Safe program, your information will be kept confidential and is not made public on voter lists that other folks have accessible. The state law requires that the public availability of voter lists include names and address of registered voters. But in 2009, the Georgia legislature enacted a bill known as the Vote Safe program to provide for the confidentiality of your residents, of certain registered voters who have been or may be subjected to acts of family violence, stalking, or currently reside in a family violence shelter. So make sure that there's some information that you know. So if you're a survivor of domestic violence, stalking, etc., and want to register to vote, or already a registered voter but want to ensure that your name and address are not made public on voter lists, you can visit the page below, the link below. So really quickly, we're going to go through about early termination under the early termination law. Everybody in the state of Georgia is eligible for that if you're on probation. They also have a law in Georgia where you can actually do early termination of parole. But right now we're talking about probation. Everybody is eligible, and this is including people who are forced to register on the sex registry. If you have been on probation for at least 3 years, whether you owe money or not. Now, if you're not restitution, now you're not eligible under this law if you owe restitution, because they feel like you've hurt somebody, you owe somebody their money, you need to get them their money back first. But even if you owe fines and fees, if you have served at least 3 years in Georgia on probation, you have not had any new offenses except for minor traffic offenses, automatically your probation officer is supposed to send you a letter. And I know for a fact somebody showed me a couple of weeks ago that they just got a letter out the blue from their PO saying your termination has been terminated. And guess what? If you had fees and fines, that got terminated too. So as long as you meet 3 criteria, no new arrests, minor traffic offenses are okay. However, an arrest that ultimately did not result in a conviction may still disqualify you. So make sure you talk to your PO in advance. No probation revocation in the past 2 years, in whole or in part, for violating the condition of your probation. And you must have paid all your restitution in full. That does not include fines and fees. If you're on parole, you also may be able to have that terminated as well. And of course, to find that information out, you can go visit GJP's website at the link that you see there. You can just contact them as well. And also, if you feel like you meet the PO, you contact your PO and you tell them, I believe I meet this criteria, and ask them if they have already done it or if they're going to be submitting your petition to terminate your probation. Like, hey, Joker, I did this. I've been out of trouble. I ain't got no new offenses. I don't owe restitution. It done been 3 years. I want to know if you already submitted or when you're going to submit it. If they give you a hard time and say, well, you're not eligible because of your charge, don't argue with them. Just call this phone number and make sure you can get that taken care of. If you feel like they're telling you the wrong information intentionally or whether it's wrong or just giving you a hard time, you can email Department of Community Supervision. And if neither one of them gives you any results, then you can contact GJP, which is a law firm in Atlanta, and attach a copy of disposition. The process is pretty easy, and of course you're going to get these slides, and so for the sake of time we're not going to go through all of it. But if you submit a petition to terminate, you'll have a hearing to be held within 90 days, and the court will grant the petition. But it's fairly a easy service. And these are just some of the services that GJP helps with. They do criminal defense and social services in Fulton and DeKalb County. They help with early termination of probation. They help you with record restriction, what we call expungement, but they do record restriction. They help you with pardons, help you get occupational license if you were denied due to felony. So for reason you want to get your barbering license or some type of special license that you have to get through the state, but you were denied because you were a felon, they'll help you with that. A new law actually got passed 2 years ago for people who had suspended license because they missed traffic court. So they help with that. So if you need that information, be sure to look at the links in the slide. But I will let you know that before GJP can help you, you must attend a First Friday session. And they do offer those virtually. It's about an hour and a half long, and it just talks to you about their services. It's sort of like an orientation. But it's well worth it to be getting some free legal services to attend an hour and a half virtual orientation. And if you just want to know information about pardons, gun rights, or early termination info, you can just either click the link or scan the QR code. And this one says a mini voter guide for Columbus voters. It's pretty much basically the same thing, except for this one, it has the elections office in Columbus, but you can still click the same voter guide and get relevant links and info. And there's some frequently asked questions. When does a 3 years start? It starts at the complete your time of your sentence you served in prison. What should I do if I can't afford to pay my fines and fees? You can request a hardship exemption application. I'm sorry, sir, I can't pay this. You can request that to at least waive your monthly supervision fee. Payments can be converted into community service hours. A lot of people don't know that if they owe fines and fees, you can actually tell them, I can't afford it. I don't have a job, or I got a job and I can't afford it. I know I owe so and so and so amount of money. How many community service hours can I do in lieu of paying money? They can do that, and restitution, but restitution cannot be converted into community service hours because guess what? The victim won't they money. And so these are just some few other questions that if you need it, and questions about being locked up if you don't report and things like that, okay? And so now it's giveaway time.
Waleisah,
Uh-huh.
on the office that you were talking about, it's just for Fulton and DeKalb County? That
No, Georgia Justice Project works safe throughout the state. They only
okay.
help with criminal representation in Fulton and DeKalb County. So if you wanted criminal representation,
Okay.
I think it's civil, so I don't want to make sure I'm saying it right, but I think they do help with criminal, but it's only in Fulton and DeKalb counties.
So we don't have an office out here in Columbus?
No,
No.
they're in Atlanta, but they
Okay.
do work with folks throughout the state. Expungement, driver's license, all that stuff they do throughout the state, except for the
Okay.
criminal legal support. That's only for Fulton and DeKalb counties.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And I think Andrea had a question, and then Monica.
It was less of a question and more of just I wanted to echo your sentiment as someone who has done a lot of poll watching for various races, municipal and national and statewide. I just wanted to echo what you were saying about disability services and elderly services. Read the slides before you go because unfortunately, a lot of poll workers are not going to know this information. They are concerned with other things. I'm not sure what those other things are, but many a time a poll watcher has had to step in and say, I'm not sure about that, or maybe this gentleman needs help here, or something like that. Poll workers are not allowed to talk to voters, but if they notice something, they can, poll watchers are not allowed to talk to voters, but if they notice something, they can talk to the person in charge and ask, try to correct the situation. But my point is, unfortunately, you'll have to make sure that you have your information ahead of time for the services that you need in order to successfully vote. And then you may have to advocate for yourself once you're there.
Okay. All righty. Before we go to Monica's question, is there anybody on the call who found something out today in this presentation that you had not known? Oh, you had never known about the Vote Safe program, Andrea. Okay. All right.
I think it's amazing. It's a positive step towards protecting people.
Yes. All right, Monica.
Just want to remind people who have completed their sentence. There have been instances where termination of sentences has been in question, but the Georgia Justice Project has a flyer, and I'll get it and I'll drop it in the chat. That they provide a Georgia certificate of sentence completion. That may be something you can get from a probation parole officer. But let me just suggest that if you can get it and have it on your person, have it on in your stack of important papers in case you are questioned or you need to prove that your sentence has been completed.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna get ready and do this, and we're gonna give y'all back some of y'all's time. Andrea. Oh, wait a minute. I was still sharing, huh? I'm gonna drop the link. Wait a minute. I'm gonna drop the link. So if you're in Columbus, again, if you're in Columbus or in Fayetteville, please join us for our upcoming events. We had one today for City Council District 5. We have some more coming up for Mayor District 7 and a few others, as well as school board. And we have one in Fayetteville. We're going to be doing a screening and doing some of the same information as well. Now, let's go back to my little screen, and we're going to spin. If I can figure it out. There we go. Let's see. Now, of course, the obvious. Me, Adam, Andrea, and Irma are not eligible because we rich. No, I'm just playing. But Irma and Andrea are our board members. And of course, Adam. So we are going to be Paris, Colette, William, and Shanita and Lisa will be entered in the spin. And whoever it lands on will get $25 for joining us.
Waleisah, I quit the board. I need $25.
Oh, quit. So now we're going to spin. Yay! Colette. Should we do one more spin, Irma?
Yes, just because I
Irmia
can't.
and Andrea, y'all gotta approve it. Should we give out 25 more?
Yes.
Okay, let's spin one more time. Wait. Okay, if Colette get picked, we're not gonna worry about it.
No, she can't get picked again.
Yay! All righty. So Lisa and Colette, if you are however you want your 25, whether it's Zelle, PayPal, or Cash App, email us at office@nlscoinc.org and let me know how you want that sent. Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. Please make sure it is accurate. I've had people do that before. We do not send it a second time. If the Zelle information is wrong, actually, I prefer, Andrea, if you can drop our donate link into the thing, I prefer that you request it from us. That way we know we're sending it to the right person. So she's gonna drop the donate button. If you go to that donate button, there is a black flyer on the page with our Zelle info, our Cash App info, and our PayPal. So it'll be easier for you to request 25 from us. And that way we can make sure we get that to you. Okay. Give me at least until noon tomorrow, and I'll make sure I get that sent to you. Okay, but congratulations, Lisa and Colette. Thank you all so much for joining us, Mr. Adams. I appreciate you. And while we're gonna get ready to stop, but y'all stay on. Let me close this out again. We want to thank you so very much for joining us to be getting informed and how to be a more informed voter. And we hope that you learned something from this presentation from us, Fair Count and VoteRiders, and that you will do your due diligence to get all the information you need to be a more informed voter and to get out and actively work against systems of oppression that are trying to suppress our vote. We wish you the best, and we hope you have a safe and happy rest of your day. Let me stop this, and then we're going to